Hey, it's Lisa Wimberger here. I'm the founder of Neurosculpting, and I have helped thousands of people learn really powerful tools to regulate their minds and their bodies, including pro athletes, entrepreneurs, and those with serious stress-based illnesses. So I'm really excited to help you do the very same thing through education and some incredible guest experts. And together, we're going to discover the formula to unlock hope. So welcome. So let's talk hysterectomy, which is a sensitive topic for a lot of women. I get it. And I just want to set the stage. I'm going to share my personal experience. This is not medical advice. This is not psychotherapy advice. This is my journey with the unraveling of gender identity, of what it means to be a woman, of what it means to be a viable woman, and loss. There's a lot of loss with hysterectomy. So this is my experience. Maybe this is helpful for you if you're going through hysterectomy, or if you've had one and you want to reframe it so that it doesn't stick in your nervous system in the way that it has. I was really, really afraid when I was told I needed one, right? It was, well, let me set the stage, because maybe this is also going to be helpful for people who don't yet know they have fibroids. Fibroids are super common for women. They're terrible, but they're common. And they can affect all sorts of things, from your capacity to have a child, to your hormones, to everything. I didn't know anything about fibroids. All I knew was that for about 5 years, I was growing. I was growing at a time where I should not have been growing, right? I was growing at a time when I was not pregnant. Holy moly, my waistline is getting bigger. I am feeling incredible bloat. I am feeling stuck. I am starting to accept this as the normal aging process, right? This is what goes through women's minds, right? It's like, oh, well, this is just what happens when you age. Oh, this is what happens when you start perimenopause. This is just what happens. You get, blocked up, you get bloated, and you start to have erratic periods. So I normalized it, as I think many of us do. And then I started having lower back pain. My back started going out. I've never had back pain in my entire life. But my back started going out. My left hip started messing up. And this is, of course, just what happens when you age, right? And I went down every single rabbit hole of nutrition protocols. Number one, I never thought it was menstrually related, because I didn't have menstrual pain, and I was following a normal trajectory to perimenopause. So I didn't think my bloat was related to that. I also had regular checkups. My labs were normal. So this must be nutrition, right? Because this is my gut. And I did 5 years of regimented protocols after protocols. Now, mind you, they all were super beneficial. I would not have changed a thing. And I eat really clean because of it. But it didn't address the major symptoms I was looking to address. And during an acupuncture appointment, where I was complaining about my gut to my acupuncturist, she palpated my stomach and said, "Oh, honey, you better go to the doctor." I hadn't had anyone touch my stomach, any medical professional touch my stomach throughout this whole process. I was self-diagnosing. And there's a benefit to that, and there's also a detriment, right? I'm pretty thick when it comes to what my body's doing. I'm going down all these self-diagnosis rabbit holes, and I never once had anyone actually touch my stomach. She tells me I need to go to the doctor immediately. I go. I get an ultrasound, and I have a fibroid the size of a baby's head. No wonder I have felt 5 months pregnant for years. No wonder my pants keep going up in size, even though I'm working out, even though I'm eating clean. No wonder. So I get scheduled for a hysterectomy. There's no way to take just the fibroid. It's tremendous. So I now have about a month to process, wow, what does it mean to lose my uterus? Hadn't really ever thought about that before. Thought about menopause, and many of us do. Many women think about, well, in menopause, I'm going to lose my viability, right? I may not be as sexually viable or attractive to the opposite sex or to the same sex, depending on your preference. I may not feel like a vital, alive kind of woman. This is what went through my mind when I was preparing for menopause. But I was preparing for menopause as a woman who would keep the relic of her uterus, right? I would keep that organ. I had never considered what it means to have that removed until I had to. So now I'm in this mental process phase of, oh my God, I'm going to lose this part of me. I'm going to lose multiple parts of me, right? I'm going to lose, my tubes, my cervix, my uterus, like all these parts that, oh my God, completely are woven into the definition of a woman, not just by me, but by all of society for all of time. Now, yes, we are moving into an era where we can identify differently, and that has its benefits and its cons, right? We're seeing lots of renegotiations around who we think we are in the world. The benefit is freedom to think of who we are in the world. But there is also a downside to self-identification, which is you really have to think about it and process what it means to you to be a gendered body, however you want to define gendered, right? Whether it's a non-binary body, a male gendered body, female gendered body, a body that is not born male but identifies as male, the whole spectrum, right? You actually have to process this in order to claim it and integrate it and be it. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So here I am, fully prepared for menopause, only to have the rug ripped out from under me to say, well, it's not just menopause. By the way, it's the removal of everything that makes you a female biologically. And so let me clarify what I mean by that. When we're in utero, when we're forming as a blastula of cells, we have some core stem cells that will differentiate to make gendered bodies. But they come from the same place, right? The stem cells for ovaries and gonads are the same. The stem cells for breasts and a male chest, they're the same. Stem cell for clitoris and a penis, they're the same. They differentiate, but they start, or as an origin point, the same. I'm not quite sure what the stem cells of a uterus are for a male. I don't know. I don't even know if there are any. So my interpretation is that truly, the uterus, the cervix, is a uniquely female body, biologically gendered organ. So there's a lot loaded into that. There's a lot of all across time, the understanding that this unique space is truly the only space all of humanity can proliferate and grow. Without it, there is no humanity. Of course we need sperm. Of course we do. But without a uterus, there is no humanity ever again, ever. That is something I was very, very desensitized to. And let me tell you how I was desensitized, because maybe you were desensitized to this as well. We grow up as women, kind of looking forward to like, oh, I'm going to, menstruate and become a woman. And then the minute we do, oh my God, we have to deal with that for the rest of our viable, productive years, right? Every single month, we either dread the period or pray for it because we had unprotected sex, but still don't like the period, or we try to not have one by double dipping on our birth control. We are in a often very negative relationship to our cycles. We have to deal with them every month for decades. We have to buy feminine hygiene products that over time cost a fortune. It is never something we can't think about as a woman with a uterus and a cervix. It is something we always think about. It's in the back of our minds all the time. It's in the back of my mind all the time. Am I pregnant? Am I not pregnant? Thank God, either direction, right? Whatever that is. Can't wear white. Can't go out without extra tampons. Can't do certain things at certain times of the month. In high school, oh my God, I can't take swim class because X, Y, and Z. And so here we are having this relationship, this negative relationship, this desensitized relationship to what the uterus does. Now, for me, there was one moment in time, where I was excited to have a uterus. And that was when I was pregnant. I had 9 months of revering this thing inside of me. It was my daughter's first home. It was her safe home. It was her safe place. There is no other place on earth for her that was as safe as my uterus. And it served to create, gestate the love of my life. This is powerful. And it's sadly the only time that I was excited to have a uterus. What a freaking shame that it was the only time I was excited to have a uterus. The most magnificent, unique organ of our species. And it was the only time I was excited to have it, was when it was producing for me, my daughter. Okay, so wow, I'm starting to wish I had revered it more. I'm starting to wish I had paid more attention before I'm now scheduled to have it removed. And then, what kind of woman am I? These are the questions I was having. What kind of woman will I be without the only distinct parts that actually make me a woman biologically? Oh my God, I don't know. Holy crap, I have no idea who I'm going to be. How am I going to feel viable and of value and sexy and happy in my skin without this? Never even thought about it till now. So I'm doing all my processing. And now it's coming time for the surgery. And now I'm quite honestly freaked out. I haven't had a surgery in years since my appendix exploded. Don't really want to go under the knife, but we're going to do it. And so I'm trying to process and revere this sacred space in my body while now dealing with the fear and the logistics. Fortunately, right, it's not a complicated operation. I mean, in general, it's laparoscopic. So I felt very, very fortunate that it was just a hysterectomy at the same time trying to process this is changing the face of how I identify as a woman. And I know that some of you out there who have gone through maybe gender transformation are not viewing this the same way. And of course, how could you? It's a different thing. And I'm certainly not understanding what it means to have a gender transformation. But unless and until you've had a hysterectomy, you absolutely cannot say it is not a gender bender processing experience. Because for me, it absolutely was, without a doubt. Removing my female creation space when I didn't want it removed. That was rough. And what came of it was nothing I expected. I expected some depression. I expected to feel energetically dried up, to feel less than a woman. I expected to feel old. I expected to feel the normalizing of this is what an aging body does. I expected to, I don't know, order the mom jeans from those SNL commercials that come up to just under your chest. I don't know what I expected, but I expected a lot of negative processing. There was grief. There was a lot of grief. But it wasn't grief about womanhood. It was grief that I had burnt down my daughter's first home. It was grief that I spent my whole life not revering this space. It was grief that as a culture we don't red tent the situation and bond as women. It was grief for the way we treat this space individually and collectively. That was a grief I didn't expect. It was a grief that serendipitously lined up to my daughter turning 18. I was having my hysterectomy just a week or so before her birthday when she was turning 18, and we did a ceremony for her 18th birthday in prep for that birthday and this hysterectomy, and that also was so much synchronicity and grief around cutting the cords. Holy crap, I was cutting the cords. This was a lot. Not only was I cutting the cords, but the thought and the idea of what do they do with medical waste? Are they going to throw my uterus in a dumpster, a medical waste dumpster, an incinerator? I don't know what they do with that stuff. They didn't give it to me in a jar to take home, that's for sure. So what do they do with this? My daughter's first home. The most sacred space I could ever have imagined. What do they do with it? There was a lot of grief around that. What do they do with my parts and pieces? I don't know. I still don't know. And then I had the hysterectomy. And here's what my experience gave me. Well, I went home from the hospital 9 pounds lighter. No, it wasn't 9 pounds worth of removal, but it was, it had been pushing on my intestines. My intestines were all the way up. My bladder was squished all the way to one side. My uterus was pushed all the way into like my left, near like the iliac muscle. Everything was reconfigured. So I got home from the hospital, not bloated, able to go to the bathroom normally, not having to pee every 30 minutes. And oh my God, my back pain was gone. My hip pain was gone. I did not expect that. I did not expect digestion to feel normal. I didn't know that all of the bloat that I had experienced for the last few years was due to this, because all of a sudden I had my stomach back. I had a body I recognized in the mirror as the person I've identified with my whole life, outwardly, physically, aesthetically. I recognized myself again. I hadn't recognized myself in the years leading up to it. My old clothes fit. These are all nice perks, right? But here's what I did not bargain for. This was the gift. My experience is that the creation space that the uterus holds is magnificent. But something is holding the uterus. The energy holding the uterus, the energy behind the uterus, however you want to define it. I'm not talking biology here. I'm just talking energy now. The energy that holds that space was freed up when my no longer working uterus was gone. I had a surge. I had a surge of energy that had been behind the scenes of all of my identification as a woman that I did not expect. I expected a hole, a vacancy. What I got was a flood of power, creation energy that is the thing that holds the thing that creates humanity. Holy crap. I did not know that was there. I got a surge of vitality and power and enthusiasm for life and excitement for being a woman. I was identifying more as a woman in my feminine power without a uterus than I ever did with one. Is that to say I needed it to be removed to do that? No, I just needed to get my head out of my ass and actually pay attention to what it means to be a woman prior to that, but I never did. Because I was so busy fighting against my uterus, fighting against my cycles, my periods, not liking them, being annoyed by this magic space. And now that it was gone, it showed me its potency, but it also pointed at a potency beyond it, a potency that perhaps is available to all gendered and non-gendered bodies, a potency, a creation energy that maybe you're way more evolved than me and you've been accessing this your whole life, and so this is just rudimentary for you. Or maybe you didn't know it existed. There is an energetic flow that filled the vacancy in my body, that filled that cavity that was always there, that was behind the scenes, that has refaced, resurfaced, replaned, refreshed, reignited, and done all of that anew. I feel like a whole new body, a whole new person, a whole new woman at 53. I did not expect that. So, first I had to process the grief of losing it. I had to process the grief of having ignored it or been in a negative relationship to it my whole life, so that I can then process the expansion that has come from it. Am I recommending hysterectomy? No. Am I telling you if you have to have one, it doesn't have to be dismal? Amen, I am. I am telling you that it doesn't have to be the mark of an aging, drying up body that is no longer feeling like a vibrant woman. In fact, it could be the initiation into more. That's what it was for me. It was the initiation into more. I didn't know there was more. I thought there was less. I thought when you go through menopause, there's less. Not for me. There could have been less if that's where I chose to stay, but I chose to move through the grief of it. And months later, it's not even been a year, but months later come out of it and feeling potent, really potent. So, takeaways from this. Look at your relationship to your body. See where you're in resistance. And maybe inquire and do some of the work to find out why. Love your body, how it is. And if you have to transition it to something, love the transition and what's going to come out of it. But if you are in resistance to being in your body, with your body, and you're in resistance to the transformation, and then you're anticipating a negative relationship post-transition, then you're not going to find your sense of self anywhere. So you have to position yourself to find your sense of self. And it's powerful. So those are some of the takeaways. Also, your female hygiene health doesn't always give you indicators in a way that we associate with feminine hygiene, right? It's not always going to show up as an interruption of your period or cramps. It's not always going to show up as something gynecologically noticeable. It could show up as back pain or hip pain or bloat in the stomach that you think is your gut, because that's how it showed up for me. So just pay attention to the body, its messages, its history, its legacy, its voice, and who it wants to become. My body was done with my uterus so that I could start my relationship differently with my uterus. We're not always on the same timeline. Mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical bodies are not always on the same timeline. My physical body was on its own timeline, and my emotional body, mental and spiritual, had to catch up. Normally for me, it's the other way around. My spirit is ready for something and my body has to catch up, but this was the opposite. And then there are little tiny things that you notice that change about the collective experience of being a woman that you didn't notice before. For instance, I can wear white pants whenever I want. Ladies, you know that that's a thing. Men, I don't know if you understand that there's a subtle fashion police that happens, activity police that happens in your mind when you are a menstruating woman. You cannot wear this outfit during this week just in case. You can't go out without a purse because you need to put extra things in that extra, feminine products in that purse. You certainly can't go swimming in high school. Like all the things that we don't even think about. Suddenly, I have all this space not to ever have to think about them again. For me, that was huge freedom. I don't have to walk down certain aisles in the store anymore, ever again. I don't have to walk down the sanitary napkin aisle, the tampon aisle. And this is not to minimize your cycles, ladies. If you're viable, then love it. But I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to freaking love it because I have all this space to fill with other things now. And these little subtle revelations just keep coming. All the things I reach for on autopilot that were due in part to me having a cycle, I don't have those anymore. My sense of time has changed. Menopause and or hysterectomy will change your sense of time. It's a time bender. I have more liquid time available to me. That is something I am playing with. I have never experienced that before. I am not bound by weeks. I'm not bound by 28 days. I'm not bound by 9 months. I am not in relationship to the entire way I tracked time with my body before. It's completely changed. I still have no idea how to be in relationship to that. That's fascinating to me, and it's brand new. So these are the things that I experienced during my hysterectomy, and I came out of the whole scenario feeling like more of a woman, happy to be in a body that feels more like a woman with less woman parts. How ironic. I came out of it understanding that vitality and viability and my sense of womanhood and gender and love for my body has everything to do with my perceptions and nothing to do with my parts and pieces. Maybe you're more than your parts and pieces. Maybe they don't define you. Maybe they don't have to. Maybe you have to remove them to find your definition, or maybe you can find your definition and not have to transition your body to anything. All I know is that there's no right or wrong when it comes to how you feel in your body, and that the magic mojo is your frame, your mental perception, and your willingness to do the inquiry. And that's what it was for me. I hope that's what it can be for you. Love your body, listen to it, relate to it. It's yours. Thanks for listening to Unlock Hope. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we're at Neurosculpting Institute on Facebook, at Neurosculpting on Instagram. You can always reach out to us on our website, neurosculpting.com, and you can download our app, Neuropraxis. Stay well, everybody.